our membership, EVP, or reach out to me and I'd be happy to take you through additional benefits as well. Also, moving right along, we have a call for volunteers. And most certainly, our call for volunteers is definitely something that we want you all to be aware of. We're looking for you. We're looking for all skill levels. All skill levels are welcome. Come one, come all. There's great opportunities to learn and grow and become a greater part of the AMA DFW family. Now, I want to make sure you understand that we have coming up July 30th is our virtual marketing SIG workshop. And it really dives into true differentiation in business, really helping to drive loyalty and sales. And I'm excited to share that we have Stan Phelps. He is a national speaker, TEDx speaker, Forbes contributor, IBM futurist, and also the founder of Purple Goldfish. Now, something I get very excited about, and that is this big announcement. So we'll send out notifications. We'll have a registration form on our website. All eyes in, everybody moving closer. And this is for a very powerful focus on the small to medium businesses. So definitely look for those announcements coming here in the next couple weeks. Also, coming up is our Marketer of the Year that is scheduled for September 23rd at VOOV in Dallas. And most certainly, of key information is award submissions close July 31st. So do not forget that. We have several different categories to apply to submit your submissions. And most certainly, the EVP Chief Brand Officer of the Dallas Cowboys, I'll say it again, the Dallas Cowboys. We are celebrating her as our 2020 Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, and that is Charlotte Jones. So I expect to see you there. Key dates: submission deadline July 31st. Judging will begin the 1st of August. Finalists announced August 17th. Gala ticket sales begin on July 1st. And the awards gala is September 23rd. Now, without further ado, I invite you to turn up the volume on your phone, your laptop, iPad, whatever it is. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are, definitely it's time to truly engage and be enlightened. I am happy to welcome Fanny Dunagan. She will bring to you great knowledge on how to build a brand in today's saturated market. And Fanny is a LinkedIn expert. She hosts several different video webinar sessions. She's a great speaker. She has a wealth of knowledge and information. And I could take up the whole hour and tell you more about Fanny, but I won't do that. So Fanny, I turn it over to you. Thank you.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much. Thank you for that warm welcome. And thank you for having me on this amazing luncheon that you guys have organized. And quick shout out to Jamie as well for organizing this. I'm super excited to be talking to the AMA audience. And we're going to go through a lot of things. So make sure you have like a pen and paper, and we're going to do some interactive exercises and have some fun, hopefully. Okay, so let's start off with the slides. And so just a quick introduction about myself. Again, my name is Fanny Dunagan. I'm CEO of Pathlynks, and I'm a video content strategist. And I kind of wear two hats. I serve corporate clients with recruitment and employer branding. And then I also serve individuals like business owners, corporate professionals, to help them build their brand on LinkedIn. So I have those hats, and I pretty much live on LinkedIn. So please find me there. You can see my profile, look up Fanny Dunagan, and connect with me. And I would love to connect with you all, especially because we're all in the marketing realm. So I also wanted to highlight really quick, if you could pull up my YouTube channel, slide number 3. Just for those of you that want to kind of see some of my content, I give a lot of tips around content creation. And if there's any job seekers that are out in the audience, I do a lot of content around that, to how you can create content to land jobs as well as to land clients. So feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can find me under Fanny Dunagan. And just a quick thing also with the next slide is I wanted to share with you every Monday on LinkedIn, I post a content tip of the week. So feel free to follow along, and I talk all about content tips to build your brand. And then every Thursday, I also go live with special guests that are amazing content creators and talk about a variety of topics. So that's a little bit about me. And so now I'd like to share with you the agenda. I always tell people, I kind of talk in kind of 3 sections for this presentation. I want to first talk to your head and give you some statistics around LinkedIn and why it's such an amazing tool right now and platform to get organic reach. And then the second part of my presentation is about how to define your unique brand. And that's when I'm going to talk to your heart and really find out, and we'll go through an exercise of how you can define your unique brand and how to be one of a kind in this saturated market that we're in right now. And then the third part of my presentation will be around the how-tos, right? We'll get to some very tactical things that you can do, and I'll share a bunch of examples for you, the different types of content that you can create to build your expertise and create warm leads and land clients. Okay, so the first section is why LinkedIn, right? Why bother? Why spend your time creating content on this platform? And so for those of you, Angela, you might appreciate this. When was the last time you all Googled yourself? Okay, if you type your name into Google search, you know what's going to come up? Okay. If you do, so I did Angela's name, I did Angela Neal, and I pulled her up on Google, and you were the 3rd search result, right? And it was your LinkedIn profile. So oftentimes, your LinkedIn profile is going to be either the top 3 to 5 search results in Google. So it's so important to control what gets out there, because if people are looking you up, trying to decide whether they're going to do business with you or not, that's your LinkedIn profile is going to be one of the top search results that comes up. So it's important to make sure that you define your brand properly, define your offering properly on LinkedIn. And as far as some of the statistics in the next slide, you'll see that LinkedIn, for those of you, like, we used to think of it just as a pure job search platform, right? We went there just to find a job. But it's become so much more now. It has become a huge platform for business professionals. And people come there to learn, to grow their careers. And there are over 675 million global users on LinkedIn. But the interesting statistic there is, of the global users, only 0.5% post content weekly. Okay? And in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where we are, right, there are almost 4 million DFW LinkedIn users, but only 3% have posted anything in the last 30 days, in the last month. Okay? So as far as people posting content, there's only about 3 to 5% of that 4 million in DFW area. However, as far as people just going in there to look, and what I call lurkers, right? They're just scoping around, not doing anything, not liking, not comment, but they're looking and watching. 47% of users are just looking and consuming content. So if you look at that, 3 to 5% are creating the content, which is the supply, and 47% is watching, right? And that's the demand for content. It is significantly higher. So those that create content will be the ones that get noticed. And if you want to stand out, you have to be one of those top 3 to 5%, right? And it's growing. That's why right now it's still a lot of great organic reach. You don't necessarily have to pay for ads on LinkedIn. So now is the time to really jump on the LinkedIn bandwagon. In the next slide, I also wanted to illustrate, like, LinkedIn is also a wonderful business to business platform, right? B2B. I think a lot of people in the AMA audience are marketers or work for an agency or create content or marketing materials for a living, right? We serve a lot of businesses, right? And while Facebook and Instagram, a lot of that is B2C, but LinkedIn is an amazing platform for B2B, and it's very strong compared to all the other platforms as well. And then in the next slide, you can see there are so many influential decision makers and C-level executives on LinkedIn. And unlike some of the other platforms, you know exactly what company they work for, you know exactly what their job title is. So you can really target and aim your content towards a specific audience or a specific group of audience or a specific client on LinkedIn, right? So you can get very granular in terms of how you create content and the audience that you serve on LinkedIn. So it's a great place to find, you know, all those leaders and decision makers that you are selling your products to. And at the end of the day, if you go to the next slide, like why? Like why do you want to create content on LinkedIn, right? And why create content at all? Because when you create content over time, you're going to build thought leadership, especially if your content is purely to give value and to give advice and give tips to your audience. We go to that platform a lot to just learn, right? Get fresh ideas, collaborate, engage with people. Over time, if you consistently create content, you're going to become a trusted advisor in your niche, in your industry. You're going to attract people also that you might not normally meet in your day-to-day life, right? Because again, it's a global platform. You're going to have a very wide reach, and you might attract people from other states, other cities, other countries. I've met clients in Canada. I now have a client in Australia. And so they're from far-reaching places, and I would have never met them if I wasn't creating content on LinkedIn. So it is a great place to attract people to your industry. And over time, the more real you are, the more you create an engaged audience, the more you create value, you're going to create trust, right? And as marketers, when we create trust with the audience, when we create trust with the customer, that's when they buy, right? That's when they want to collaborate with you or form a relationship with you and buy from you and buy from your services. So the more content you create, the more authentic it is, the more value it gives. Over time, people are going to feel like they know you before they even meet you, right? Like I think Angela, you know, we met maybe once, but if you've seen my content along the way, like you kind of get a feel for me, right? And I always say, like, that way you're really going to attract people that want to be part of your community, and those that are not interested will fall off, and they weren't meant to be your clients or part of your audience anyways.
That's
so that's a little bit of the why. Yeah. And so that's kind of the statistics. So let your brain chew on that and think that through. And now I wanted to share a brief story before I get into the heart side and before I get into defining your unique brand. For the longest time, I had a whole variety of roles, I felt like, in my life. I used to be a geeky engineer, loved math and science, and then from there I became a business consultant and did communications and training for aerospace and defense companies. And then from there, my life took a turn because I wanted to be a mom, and I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. and then work remotely. And then I had our second child, and that's when I felt lost. And that's when I think a lot of times we feel lost, when we're not totally sure what we want to do in our career, and when we're not, and maybe we shift, right? And maybe we have new interests and new priorities. And that's when I started to volunteer and give back to the community. And that's when I started organizing job fairs. And they became super successful, and we turned it into a business. And a subset of that was I ended up creating tons of Facebook content, LinkedIn content to promote these events. And I found love with creating content online. So it was this roundabout way that I ended up here. But the funny thing is, all my training background, all my engineering background has helped me figure out how to define content, how to define content creation in this very process-oriented way, and to serve folks in using my communication tactics and training tactics to build up marketing and build up content. So later on, I'll talk about the how-tos, and I hope you can see that it becomes a very systematic way that you can roll out content and define your brand. So for those of you that are not totally sure about your brand, I suggest like taking a look at your whole career, right? And all the things that you've done. And I'm willing to bet that each little thing will contribute to you defining your unique brand. Okay. So go through that little exercise, think back like all the things that you've done in your career, and tuck that into your head as we go through the next slide and next exercise. So what is brand? Right? At the end of the day, your unique brand is your reputation. Right? What are people going to know you for? Whenever they think of you, what is going to be top of mind to them? For me, it's video and content. Right? So for you, at the end of the day, before you even create content, I want to address something really quick, and that is our fear. Right? A lot of times before we put ourselves out there, we have this fear of judgment, fear of ridicule, fear of being laughed at, fear of being not good enough. And I want to really speak to you through this virtual medium. And even though I don't know you, I want you to know that you matter. And you have something of value to give to the world. We're all born with special gifts. We all have accumulated expertise and skills in a certain area, and you are enough, and you have something of value to give. Right? So before you create any content or build up your personal brand, you have to like ground yourself in being confident in knowing that what you have to offer to the world will be of benefit to somebody. Right? And don't let fear stop you. And I always have a hashtag that says like, do it scared, hashtag do it scared, right? Create content, put yourself on video, or, write something, and know that you have value. Okay? So set your heart to that knowledge and that grounding. And then from there, if you go to the next slide, now think of who your target audience is, okay? You set your heart, and then you ask yourself, who am I going to serve? Right? And a lot of you are marketers, so I don't have to go into this in too much detail, but really think about who that client is and who you're serving. Right? And if you look at this slide, feel free to take a photo of it. Right? These are all questions you should be asking yourself when you define your target audience. Right? And I don't want to say it too much because, again, you're marketers, you do this for a living, but like really think about what is their role, their job title, right? And also ask yourself, what is their communication style, right? Are your clients in the technology industry, and hence they like more statistics, more analytical data, right? And graphs and tables and things like that, right? Or are they more maybe creatives, right? And they prefer information packaged in terms of stories and videos, right? So really ask yourself, like your target audience, how do they consume information? What is their communication style? What is their demographic? And really, really get granular about who you want to serve and who you want to communicate with. Okay? So from there, what problems are you going to help them solve? And I would say, like, ask yourself, what is your target client's pain point? Right? What's their pain? What's their challenge that they need somebody to help them fix? And from there, narrow it down to 3 things. And that's how you're going to start to get started in terms of the who, right? And then from there, I want you to kind of get out your pen and paper and go through this exercise with me, right? Because each one of us is unique. Each one of us has a very unique brand and a uniqueness to us. I want you to put 4 boxes on your piece of paper or your notebook or on your phone, however you brainstorm and record information, right? In box number 1, I want you to put expertise. In box number 2, I want you to put values. In box number 3, I want you to put strengths. And in box number 4, I want you to put interests. Okay? And so when you create your brand and do your framework, okay, think of these 4 things. Okay? In the very first box where it says expertise, okay, ask yourself, what is the 3 things that you're an expert in? Right? A lot of you will be marketers, but really drill down. Is it under the form of SEOs, or are you a video person, or are you a writer? Are you, an ad agency? And then what is the niche within that, right? So ask yourself, what are your 3 main expertise, okay? And put that down in that first box. And then in your values, ask yourself, what do you value? Okay? Do you value trust? Do you value empathy? Do you value positivity? Do you value competition? Do you value anything, right? Like, there's so many values: honesty, creativity, innovation. Right? Write down 3 things that you value when it comes to your work, okay? And put that in the second box. In the third box, the S, this is your strengths. Right? For those of you, I highly recommend doing the Gallup Strengths Finder assessment. I put the website there, and even if you can't see it, just Google Gallup Strengths Finder. And it's a $20 assessment, and it will tell you your top 5 strengths. And what that means is these are the 5 things that even when you're tired and like grumpy and can't take it anymore, especially during this pandemic, you could still do those because you're naturally gifted at it. Okay? And so that assessment will tell you that. And then finally, your interests. What are your 3 hobbies? What do you like to do on the weekends? What sports do you like? Are you a traveler? Are you a foodie? Do you love to sew? Like, whatever it is, write that down. You love football, basketball, golf, whatever it is, yoga. Write down what you're fascinated by and what your interests are and your hobbies. Okay. So after you do that in those 4 boxes, you go to the next slide, you can kind of see how I put together my unique brand. Okay. So in my box, content creation is one of the things that I talk about, right? So that's my expertise. Right? And then the next box, one of my values is trust, right? And empathy, and creating that with people. One of my strengths is connections, right? And connecting people and services. And one of my interests is travel. So when I put together a piece of content around my personal brand, I bring all those elements together. Okay? So I might be giving tips around content, but I weave in and talk about how you need to create trust with your audiences. That's one of my values. And then I also talk about connections, creating connections with the audience. Okay? So these are all words that mean something to me, and they form my unique brand. And you're going to have a totally different set of words and set of expertise as well. Okay? And then now and then I'll throw in my travel photos. right? So I talk a lot about different industries, and later on I'll show you a sample of how I weaved in. Like there was one time I went to southern Italy, and I stayed in a remote B&B. And so I did like a video clip of this really quaint Italian village that I was at. But I talked about how I was able to find this B&B all the way across the world. And it was because that B&B had a brand and they were searchable. And I found them, and then they had great reviews. So I tied that back to having a great personal brand so that when people look you up, they know what you're all about. Okay? So in that case, I'm talking about branding, I'm talking about creating content, and then I tied it to my interests by having like an entertaining little video clip of an Italian coastal village. Who doesn't love that, right? So this is how you start to weave in your professional side and expertise, but still keep it very professional and tasteful by weaving in your interests as well. Okay? And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see another example. This is one of my clients where he's a sales coach, okay? But his values are growth and learning. One of his strengths is his positivity. And then one of his interests is golf. Okay? So we put together content where he tied in a lot of sales examples using golf analogies. Okay? So in that case, and then we would talk about how like his strategies help people promote growth and learning. And so we really kind of tied all these unique parts of him so that he didn't sound like every other sales coach out there. He's the sales coach that uses a lot of golf analogies and is all about positivity and growth. Right? So that's a great way, very quick exercise for you to do to start to define your unique brand. Okay, I hope that helps. And feel free to let us know if you have any questions in the comments. I don't know if we can see them or not, but we'll certainly try to answer them. Awesome. And so whenever you're not sure as you're starting out, right, do map out those 4 quadrants and those 4 boxes. And that's a great way to start developing your unique brand. Okay. And then from there, if you hop on to the next slide, now let's talk about the how. Okay. Talk to your head, gave you some stats to justify why you need to be spending time on LinkedIn for your business. And then I talked to your heart and reminded, hopefully, you that we all have value to give. And then from there, define your unique brand. Because there's going to be only one of you, one set of expertise with unique values, strengths, and interests. So from there, how do we roll it out? Let's talk about the how. Okay, let's get tactical. Step 1 is there's a whole strategy importance around engaging on LinkedIn and just commenting on other people's posts. Okay, I've met clients and built up relationships with people through the comments, right? And then we take it to direct messaging, then phone call, and then from there, having a client relationship. Okay? So it's so important to engage on LinkedIn. Number 2, I'm going to go through like these 3 levels of types of content that you can create on LinkedIn. Each one of them will go from like the low risk takers to the medium risk to like the higher risk. But the more risk you take, the more you present yourself and share yourself, the more engagement you're going to get. Okay? But I'm going to go through all these different phases that you can go through if you're hesitant at first to create content. And then finally, I'll go through some examples. So engagement, right? It's so important to really follow companies, content creators, and even target clients on LinkedIn. Really do your research, right? And from there, those that create content, engage with it, comment on it, right? Add your insights. If it's an article about 5 tips to improve something, go in there and comment and add the 6th tip. Right? Especially if it's in the marketing industry or tied to whatever industry you're in, add your perspective, add your 2 cents. And that's a great way to start getting exposure into that company or that content creator or that target client's audience and get in front of them and get their attention. Okay? And like their stuff, comment on it, share it. Okay? This in itself, people forget this a lot. They just post content and then let it ride out. Right? But it's so important to engage with the content that your target clients and companies put out. Who doesn't love getting comments and likes on their posts, right? But do it very thoughtfully and add your own personal expertise, even if it's just 1 or 2 sentences, to add your extra thoughts. And that in itself, over time, you're going to start to build that relationship with those potential people. And even with collaborators, people that you respect in the industry. Okay. If you go to the next slide, at the end of the day, comments have power. So never underestimate it. You can even, I've seen people even write like long paragraphs inside comments. And actually, the more engagement you have on your post, the more it's going to pop up onto other people's feeds. So the power of comments and the power of engagement will be pivotal to getting viewership as well. And from there, if you go to step 2, there are 4 purposes of content. Right? I call it the EIIE. I'll have to think of a more creative way. But those are like the first letters of this these 4 types, right? Content should educate, right? Give tips, give advice, mistakes to avoid, all that kind of stuff, white papers, so forth, right? Content should educate first. Secondly, another type of content is informational posts. Content should inform. Announce events, right? Like right before this AMA event, we announced it. It was shared across different platforms. Those are informational posts, right? That's informational content. We're telling people about things that's about to happen or coming up and so forth. Okay? The third type is inspirational posts. Okay? We've all seen those great quotes or business stories or personal stories that people share, and they touch our hearts, right? They move us. They evoke an emotion in us. Those are the inspirational kind of posts. And then finally, entertaining posts. These are the funnies, right? These are the entertaining things that make you smile. And especially now during the pandemic, like I think a lot of people gravitate to positive, entertaining kind of posts that make us laugh and lift our spirits. Right? So I think all content should fall within these 4 categories. So if you're ever at a loss, ask yourself, what can I educate people on? What can I inform people on, inspire people, or entertain people? Right? And just put them into those buckets. So from there, I'm going to now give you like little examples. You go to the next slide. The very first basic type of content you can do, right? This is very easy to do, but it's also lower engagement, but just start, right? If you're not doing this, at least do this. Right? Number 1, just share an article. Right? If you find something in, Forbes magazine or Inc. or Fortune magazine or Wall Street Journal or whatever news forum or magazines that you follow, right? If there's an article in there, Harvard Business Review, if there's an article in there that you think speaks to your industry, right? So a lot of you will be marketing, right? Share the article, right? At the very least, do that type of content. But then from there, I encourage you to maybe add 2 or 3 sentences to incorporate your thoughts on that article. Right? So the article might be talking about the latest marketing trends, right? Maybe the latest marketing platforms. Right? So add your perspective. Maybe share your perspective on some of the trends that article is highlighting, and add, 2 or 3 sentences, maybe even 5 sentences to share your perspective of that article, so that people start to get a feel for you, right? And then from there, if there's a certain company or a certain individual that you admire or ultimately want to be your client, or ultimately just want to be a good partner or collaborator with, share their content and tag them, right? And highlight them. Because when you do that, then their community sees your content and your community sees their content. It becomes this great win-win situation. Right? You're going to get more engagement and more eyeballs on the content across the two communities. Okay? So this kind of sharing, it doesn't always generate as much views, but it's still a great place to start. And so I call that, the basic type of content. And if you go to the next slide, now we can move to the intermediate type of content. Okay? And the intermediate type of content is more original. Right? It's something that you did. And I'm sure a lot of you may know Canva, Canva.com. It's a great site to create original images and posts. Find quotes that you find inspiring. This is a sample of an inspiring post, right? You can tie things in with holidays, and this kind of post really gets a lot of engagement because it lifts people up, right? But again, tie that into your values, right? Tie that into what's important to you. And I talk about Ikigai, which is a great way to live your life with purpose. I posted that during Christmas time. I shared about, even though I was wishing people a Merry Christmas, I tied it into careers. And I said, if you're an entrepreneur, say your entrepreneur dream this Christmas. And if you're a job seeker, share your career wish this Christmas and say it out loud. And for me, I think whenever we say things out loud, it really puts it out into the universe, and it really sets the tone for us to pursue our goal and pursue our dream. And so those are the types of things that you can start to create content around, like an image, right? Or a written text post. And from there, different events that you attend, right? Or different people that you meet, take a photo with them or take a photo at that location. And don't just flash it up and just write one sentence, right? If you went to an event, don't just say, hey, I went to this conference. Say, these are the 5 things that I learned at the conference. So then from the audience perspective, they get to see the pictures and images, but they also get to learn from you because they didn't get to attend, right? But if you shared the top 5 things you learned at that conference or that workshop or that webinar, for instance, this webinar, name the top 5 things that you learned and then create a post on it, right? And tag me, and I'd be happy to engage with it as well. So that way you're creating value for your audience. Right? And similarly, if there's somebody you met and you learned something from them, or you share a common interest or expertise, right? I got to meet Simon Sinek, which was so cool, even though it's for maybe 2 minutes. But he's the guy that wrote Start With Why. I sat in on that conference, but I wrote down the top 10 things that I learned from Simon, and I made that into a post. Okay? So from there, you're learning and you're giving back to your audience, and you're sharing yourself and sharing your knowledge and expertise that you recently acquired with your audience. And again, it's creating that relationship, right, with the audience. And that's how you're going to be unique, and that's going to be how you stand out, right? You're constantly giving value to the audience. And then in the next slide, you'll see the more kind of advanced type of content is video, right? Where you really kind of put yourself out there and share from your heart. Because as much as, what do we say? We say a picture is worth 1,000 words, while a video is worth 1,000,000 words. And but not everybody has to be on video, right? If you find that you're a better writer and you're more comfortable with writing, then write articles on LinkedIn or other social media platforms. But LinkedIn is so versatile that you could write articles, you could do short form text posts, which is just 1,300 characters, or you could post images, or you could do PDF decks, or you could do videos. Right? It's from my training perspective, right, it's a great way to kind of come at people with similar content, but you're packaging it in all these different ways so that, person A might like visuals, so they're going to gravitate to your images. Person B might like to read things, so they're going to gravitate to your articles. And person C likes to see videos, so they're going to watch your video. So like think of all these different types that you can produce in order to serve different learning styles and communication styles of your audience. So if you look at this slide here for step 3, I threw up like a variety of different videos that you can create. Okay? You can create videos just sharing some of your services, right? And then you can share a video of some of your upcoming events. Right? So a lot of times right before an event, I kind of hop on, I help promote, like this HR event that's happening this Friday. So we went live several times beforehand. The host and I talked about it. And if you're nervous about getting on video by yourself, get on with someone else. So then you become this kind of like, this rapport with this other person, right? And almost becomes like a conversation style as you promote a certain event. Right? And then, or you could share a business story. Everybody loves hearing business stories where you overcome a certain challenge, right? Maybe talk about a challenge you face or a failure or a mistake, and then what you learned from it and the lesson that you got out of it and how that made you stronger. Okay? Those kind of personal stories are also great ways to connect with your audience. You can be at an event and highlight tips, have like a conference or an event. I mean, granted, right now we're in the midst of virtual, but you could still do that down the road, right? And highlight different things at events or interview somebody, feature an expert. Let's say you can even feature potential clients, okay? So if there's a prospect that you have and that you're interested in working with, create a show, create a series where you highlight different entrepreneurs, right, or different people in your industry. And that's a great way to build community as well. Again, when you post something and feature somebody, their community is going to see it and your community is going to see them as well. And it becomes this synergy of win-win to build community and build audiences as well. And then you see there, like that was a travel photo. I kind of highlighted like this night scene of Hong Kong when I was there. And that was several years ago. But that was a great way. I was talking about different industries. And so I was curious about what were the top industries in Hong Kong. And so I showed one of my travel clips from there. And then as far as entertaining, do some funny videos or funny posts, right? I did one where like, for the first minute and a half, I talked about an event that we were promoting, but then like the last 20 seconds, I did bloopers and showed all my mistakes and like fumbling and all that. But that's what creates connections with people, right? Nobody wants folks to be super polished. I think we all enjoy seeing behind the scenes. We all enjoy seeing a little glimpse of that person when they're just learning or a little vulnerability. And I think that's a great way, again, to connect with your audience. So, and that way you're also entertaining them, right? So those are all samples of different posts that you could do and different videos that you can do. I hope that sparks some ideas in you and, helps you spur some creativity. And the next slide, I do want to remind everybody, like, at the end of the day, it takes 10 pieces of content statistically before somebody makes a buying decision, right? And so be consistent with your content, right? Be regular about your content. Put together a content calendar, a schedule, right? Every Monday you're going to do this, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so forth, right? Plan out your content. It doesn't all have to be like heavy things, right? It could be, I always tell people, like, put your best content and best core piece on Mondays so that on LinkedIn they have the whole week to follow it and whole week to get traction and pop up on people's feeds, right? It's not like they're on the other platforms, but for LinkedIn, because it's still very mainly a business platform, that's a great way to get a lot of engagement and viewership for a core piece. And then supplement it with other pieces of content the rest of the days of the week. And so that's a great way to kind of plan out content. if you have any questions about that, feel free to message me. And content has led me to so many opportunities. Right? When you put out content, I got invited to, speak to AMA and all these other different associations. And I've been able to meet great people, great clients. And it's really a great way to have outbound marketing and really pull people in. And so the very final thing I want to say is it's all about building community. Right? Build a LinkedIn community. Right? Think of it as this is your audience that you want to serve. Make sure you reply to all comments, right? And connect with people that like your content. Most of the time, if they're liking and engaging with your content, they're part of your tribe, they're part of your community. Okay? And support your colleagues. If you have a whole team and you're all creating content, feel free to engage with each other's content. Right? And then again, that way, that's how you're going to create a buzz. That's how you're going to create a lot of engagement. And that's how you're going to generate more interest in each individual's brand as well as your company's brand. And then personalize your connection requests. Right? If you're reaching out to somebody that you really want to have a connection with, go through their content first. Point out something specific about them that you find a commonality with, right? And highlight that. And then this is a very cool ratio that I learned from somebody. Shout out to Craig Fisher. He says, you got to do things in that 5-to-1 give to ask ratio. Right? So for every 5 posts that you do that is just purely giving advice and sharing and creating tips and value, then the 6th one, then you can be a bit more salesy and say, hey, sign up for this or schedule a call with me and or register for this course and so forth. Right? Nobody wants to be immediately sold to. I think we've all gotten those requests and those messages. As soon as you connect, they're immediately let's set up a call. And I'm like, no, I don't know you at all. Right? You need to build a relationship. So give to people, engage on their content, share advice, share content. And then from there, I think you get the permission to ask. Right? They could still say no, but I think you've earned the right then to ask. And so I want to wrap up with this quote that I really love. Because at the end of the day, I think when we create content in the long term, we're leaving a legacy. Right? We're leaving something out there in the digital world, and I think we need to be really conscious of it and really want to create value for our audience. And whether it's in marketing or inspiration or whatever it is your expertise is, okay? This is the quote: our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, and it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And so I want all of you, and I want to encourage all of you to let your light shine and go forth and create value and create content. So let me know if there's any questions. I kind of went through that. I threw a lot of information at you, but I really wanted to kind of share as much value and give you a bunch of how-tos and exercise to kind of get your unique brand defined, and then a bunch of different types of posts that you can do. But I don't know are you able to see some of the questions or?
Yes, actually, Fanny, I don't know if you can hear me, but
yes.
you do have some questions that are from our audience.
Awesome.
The first
Okay.
is, should you accept every invitation on LinkedIn or be more discriminating?
Yeah. For me personally, I don't accept every invitation. I always make sure I glance at their profile and see if we have something in common, or even if we don't have anything in common, that's okay. But maybe their profile is very interesting, and I could see something that I could learn from them, or vice versa, or I can engage. And you can always tell also, some some connections just don't give a good vibe, or they're going to hit you with sales. And
Yes.
so no, I don't. I made a conscious effort to focus on professionals, and to focus on like HR, technology, marketing kind of community. So ask yourself, like, what kind of community do you want to focus on, and what kind of people do you want to attract into your tribe, and then use those parameters to define whether you want to connect with them or not.
And that
And then
that
I
kind of
also,
leads me, yeah,
go ahead.
into another question. I know you spoke earlier about um, the 5-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So, but this question is, any tips on best ways to ask for
Mm.
connections with people that you would consider potential business partners?
Yeah. So I make sure, if I'm, let's say, like targeting certain clients or targeting certain people, right, that I look at their profile first. Like, I make sure that I really study their profile, study the content that they put out, and ask myself, like, is there a common thing I can put out there, right? When I first reach out to connect to somebody, I don't ask anything of them. I might just look and see if there's an article that I like that they wrote or they posted, or maybe there's something in their past experience that I admire or that I find a connection through, right? Maybe they went to a similar school as me, or maybe they have a common connection, so forth. So I always make sure I pick out something within their profile that is unique to them and that I feel a certain connection with, and I highlight that in my connection request. So then my connection request is very, very customized, and I'm not just copying and pasting and going through like a whole list, which I see a lot of people do, right? Um, and I think the more customized you are, the more you can point out something unique about them and how you feel this respect or connection to. I think the more you're going to form a genuine relationship, and the more you're going to start to create trust with that person. So I always make sure it's very customized, if I'm wanting a deep relationship or a working relationship with that person. Does that answer the
Great.
question? Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. And we have time for one more question. That is, how
Mm-hmm.
do you handle people who only connect to just ask for business? They don't bother to actually get to know you. So, what do you do? Kind of,
um,
yeah.
I If it's still a business that I have an interest in. So let's say, a part of what I do is talent acquisition and employer branding, right? So I do get a lot of recruiting agencies that reach out to me, and I still connect with them because they're still kind of in my market. And so they immediately send me a message, I want to serve and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, no thanks. I'm good right now. And I just leave
Mhm.
it at that. And a lot of times they just say, thank you for replying. And then they stop, right? But
Okay.
because they're in my industry, I'm like, it wouldn't hurt to have a connection there, because maybe down the line when I create content and they like it, then maybe their respective community will also see it. So I would ask yourself, like, is it a person that's in an industry or a client base that you're interested in? And even if they're salesy, like, if they're persistent, they don't listen, then I block, right? But if they're still in the industry and over time, like, they produce decent content, I still connect with them. I think I have a thought around sales that where, I mean, I sell too, right? But I'm just very conscious about creating relationships first. So I understand where people are coming from when they try to be salesy, and I just gauge it based on whether they're in my industry or not.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
Fanny, I must say, I've learned quite a bit through what you've shared today. And I
Oh, I'm
know that our
glad.
audience has, yes, as well. I have great notes. I have my 4 quadrant
Thanks.
expertise, values, strengths, and interests. So I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
some
I'd be
homework
curious
to
to hear
do,
what they are actually.
right? Well, I'm going to pass on that, at least for now.
Okay, we'll
But
talk
I will
offline.
say this, right? I will
Yeah,
share this as far as expertise. I'd have to say definitely in the creative space, the design space,
yeah,
also doing analysis, most
yeah.
certainly insights and problem resolution. Um, I kind of had a long list. I know you said one, two, three, but my
Yeah.
list was a bit long, so I have some work to do.
But those are
Um,
the foundations of what you can create content around. And then to
oh
make it
yeah.
interesting, that's when you weave in your
Hmm.
values and interests and strengths. So yeah, yeah, it just
I love
starts
that.
there.
I love that. And
I'm
I do
glad.
have to share, I know we have a few minutes left, but
Yes,
just that Google search, which mentioned, you did on
yeah,
my name, and you
yeah,
found my LinkedIn profile third in the list.
yeah.
Well, my LinkedIn views have climbed, increased significantly just in a short amount of time. So it's
I love
working.
it. There you go. Everybody
Definitely.
Google Angela Neal.
Right. Make sure it's me. Right. Awesome. So I do
Yeah,
want to thank you again for your time
my
and
pleasure.
also for sharing just phenomenal information to our audience
Thank
on
you.
really diving in to our brand, whether it's for our
Mhm.
individual brand or corporate brand,
Yeah.
agency brand, client brand, etc. All
You could go through
of
the
what you
whole
shared
same
applies.
exercise with a
Yeah.
business brand
Yep.
for sure.
Exactly,
Mm.
definitely. And I do have a couple of just last few announcements. I definitely want to make sure that our audience and beyond takes a look at what they receive. It's a survey. We definitely want to hear from you. And the last thing, of course, is thank you for supporting AMA DFW, um, and we'll leave you with a slide on a few upcoming programs that we have and announcements. Again, call for volunteers. Join AMA DFW. We have a July virtual marketing SIG workshop, which is special interest groups. And don't forget, Marketer of the Year coming up in September. Deadline to submit your work is July 31st. I thank you all. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you for Stream for Us. Anthony, for supporting us in our presentation today. He works tirelessly behind the scenes. He makes us
Thank
all
you,
look good.
Anthony.
So, yeah, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.